Good afternoon. This is Douglas Dahlberg, Director of Digital Transformation Services here at Applied Software, and welcome to today's class, Master Cross-Site Collaboration. Hope you enjoy the conversation today. We're going to have kind of a nice informal chat with a couple of really smart guys that I brought along with us today here. So as we wait for some folks to jump in here, I'm just going to do a couple of quick introductions for our gentlemen here. Our first panelist today we have here hails from the great state of Texas. His company, M&S Engineering, is a stable of Texas engineering, 20-year IT veteran, and he's here to explain to you why you don't mess with Texas. From M&S Engineering, we have Mr. Clay Pilkilton. Clay?
How are you guys?
Doing excellent. Hey, Clay, real brief, as folks pile in here, tell us a little bit about yourself, your company, and your role at M&S.
All right. I work for M&S Engineering. I have been the IT director for the past 13 years. I've been in IT for a little over 20 years now. M&S Engineering is primarily an electrical civil firm with 6 locations across the great state of Texas, with about 215 employees as of this morning.
Wow, excellent, awesome. Our next panelist here we have today, founded on the beautiful sunny shores of the Gulf Coast in 1953, Thompson Engineering has over 15 locations spanning from the great state of North Carolina wrapping around all the way to Texas and all points in between, with a thriving population, over 350 employees. We have with us today Thompson Engineering's own IT veteran, the man with a plan, one of the coolest names in IT, by the way, Mr. Josh Steele.
Hey, hello, everyone. Josh Steele, IT manager with Thompson Engineering. Similar to Clay, I've got a little over 20 years experience in IT. 13 of which is with Thompson. As Doug said, we've got about 15 offices throughout the Southeast, headquartered here in the great location of Mobile, Alabama, on the Gulf Coast, pretty close to the beach and Gulf Shores and all that good stuff. Interested in sharing our experience with Panzer and Applied Software with everyone.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you very much there. So, based on where you live and where Clay's at, I gotta ask you the question, guys. College football, who's your team of choice?
Go ahead, Clay, you go first.
We know it's Texas A&M. I mean,
Roll Tide, Alabama all the way.
2 great programs. I believe Alabama's kind of come out on top last 7 times, but who's counting, right?
I can't speak to that.
Okay. Well, my school is Tennessee Tech, and every time they play, they haven't actually scored on UGA in 100 years, so that's saying. And we do apologize to all the non-SEC fans, Pac-12, Big Ten, ACC viewers, whose views are not represented in this conversation. So just putting that out there. All right, gentlemen. In this incredibly increasing competitive world, it sometimes feels like firms are engaged in a technological arms race. The demands of IT are seemingly relentless. And what do I mean by that? You guys, the IT professionals here, I'm going to just kind of preach a little bit for a moment. As IT professionals, you guys are responsible for charting your company's technological course. You are key business partners and are responsible for providing an environment that supports the various business lines of your respective firms, many businesses within a much larger business, then scale all that across all your multiple locations, right? And let's not even mention now with work from home, work from anywhere, that the locations that you support has probably exploded, right? Then you need to make all of that tied together in a heterogeneous, collaborative environment that allows your staff to work together, yet keep out all the bad actors, right? You gotta stay secure amongst getting work done, all the while adhering to all the government and contractual requirements that each individual project brings. And let's just not say, hey, you gotta stay on budget too and be competitive. Josh, Clay, did I leave anything out of your daily responsibilities there, guys?
Pretty well covered.
Yeah, I think you got it.
Excellent, excellent. Hopefully you can use that as material to maybe get a raise or something. So, we know your guys' job's difficult, right? But let's talk about something that makes your day and your IT load just a little bit lighter, right? Let's talk about how Panzura can actually impact your lives and make your job a little bit easier. Let's go ahead and do that, guys. Clay, as a relative newcomer to Panzura, how would you characterize the length of your Panzura ROI for M&S Engineering?
Well, so as you know, we're just, getting started with our Panzura journey, and it's amazing so far. We've seen over the past couple months less downtime. Obviously, there's so many more less unknown expenses that are popping up. We know what's going to happen. We know what's coming down the pipe. We've been able to get our deliverables to our clients quicker, using less man hours. So, if that's not a statement for ROI, I don't know what is.
So it's not, you've only been on it a few months, but you're already realizing that?
Already, yeah, and that's obviously on our smaller projects that we're able to just knock out, multiple tiny projects within a larger utility that we may work for, that are just, hey, this is just going to be a small project right here. This is just going to be a quick turnaround. So, in the past few months that we've been working with it, we're able to say, yeah, for sure, right off the bat, that we are actually working quicker with less man hours and getting our deliverable to them obviously quicker.
That's excellent. The collaboration piece of Panzer, I'm sure, is definitely the linchpin there that's helping you get that leverage, the different staff you get in the different geos and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
One of the cool things about my job is I get to witness firsthand when folk come on new to Panzura and they kind of get that eye-opening experience, and they truly get what it does. That little light bulb moment. One of the neat quotes that I found on the Panzura website is one from Andy Knopf, where it says it was like a holy grail moment for him when he kind of figured this out, right? Where it was just like, click, oh, we can do this. And I always thought that was a great quote, because if my dad were to quote it, he wouldn't say holy grail, he'd say holy something else. But I always found that as a great quote, as in, what the technology can kind of really do for you. Did we lose Josh? Oh, there's Josh.
Yep, sorry about that.
Excellent. Hey, I'm gonna pick on you now, Josh. All right, Josh, you're now on your second phase of Panzura. Thompson Engineering really originally rolled out Panzura on the 2800 series controllers, the old pizza boxes, about a little over 5 years ago, right?
Yep.
And you guys have now gone virtual. What's that transition been like for you guys?
It's been fantastic. Like you said, we started on the 2800 series, the hardware appliances, which were fantastic. But since moving to the VMware based and the virtualized platform has provided us a lot more flexibility with deploying our appliances and consolidating hardware and just reducing costs with hardware support as well. So it certainly made our life easier, as well as we've got an appliance deployed in our Azure cloud, so we've got that as well. So actually, originally we were with Amazon when we first went to the virtualized platform, but due to cost and performance and just the additional services, I guess, or that we want to take advantage of, such as WorkSpot VDI, we decided to move into Azure, and it's proved to be more cost effective and provides us with a lot more flexibility to do what we want to do for our remote workers, in particular with COVID and all of the hurricanes and weather events we get here in the Gulf Coast. So it's been a fantastic transition from the hardware appliances to our virtualized systems.
That's awesome. I think, one of the greatest features that's been rolled out to Panzura has definitely been the virtualization part of it. You're no longer stuck, like you said, specific hardware. You can put it on whatever you want, consolidate it, right? And then, you're, as you just pointed out, you're not even tied down to a physical brick and mortar location. You're now at the cloud, right? I mean, that is awesome. Panzer virtual controllers, you can run in any of the popular cloud providers, Azure, AWS, Google. That just opens up a ton of possibilities. And for a full list of supported cloud providers, you can reference the Panzer website. But you know what? I want to circle back to that cloud stuff here in a little bit in the conversation. I'm going to dig at some other stuff here, if you don't mind. So Josh and Clay, not without giving away this, the secret sauce, but what are your secrets to saying successful and competitive in times like this right now? What are you guys' secrets from the IT side?
Productive remote work, working outside of the office. We've got, even before COVID, we had a lot of project sites, that we needed to be able to work remotely. So we were kind of poised before COVID hit, but this has really proven that Panzura was a good solution for us, because when everyone was sent home, they were able to work well remotely. So I think that's one of, key factor number one is allowing our folks to stay productive. It's actually proven to our executive team that brick and mortar isn't necessarily a requirement anymore. We've actually have some considerations of reducing our footprint physically and allowing some more flexible work schedules, so we can hopefully be more attractive to the up and coming talent as well. So it's really proven the flexibility, and the technology has proven to be a key factor in the way we work with Panzer.
Oh, that's sharp. I like the attracting the talent part of it. I think everybody in the last couple of years, there's been a talent shortage, right, in the engineering, architectural, and manufacturing communities. I think we've all at one point in time have been a victim of poaching, right? Somebody hires away one of your really good people, right? Why?
Yep.
Really good, right? So when it comes down to jumping ship and that kind of stuff, being able to provide that really cool environment, provide that technology that does, like you just said, work from home, work easy, that flexibility and that quality of life professionally. I think it says a lot, that you guys you're investing in technology to just stay competitive, to be beyond that, right? We're going towards retaining employees. That's really smart. That's really sharp. I like that. Very cool. All right, Clay, same question. What you got?
So I think Josh hit the nail on the head with it. I mean, he knocked it out of the park. I agree. Ability for your users to work anywhere on the same amount of data, ensuring that our data is safe at all times. Regardless of pandemic, natural disaster, or any somebody hitting the delete button, bad actors, etc. And being able to adapt to our clients' needs efficiently, and being on budget with that. It all kind of rolls up into Panzura really does all of that. That's we wanted to stay competitive before we even got Panzura, and we realized that was, if we wanted to stay competitive in the AEC market, we needed to go the next step, and that's why we went to Panzura.
That's excellent. All right, we're kind of a technical crowd, right? Or else I'm going to say you two guys are technical guys, right? I'm just the guy with the microphone here that I borrowed from my son. So let's get a little nerdy. Let's kind of dive down into what kind of, how you did this, right? Let's kind of dive down in that. So, we talked about Clay, you've got 6, 7 locations. Josh got over 15. You've got them all connected. So from a deployment standpoint, how are your offices connected? Is it SD-WAN, MPLS circuits, tin cans and string? I mean, what did you guys use to actually pull this off? Let's talk about how you did this. Clay, you want to go first?
Sure. Our network's pretty simple. We deployed 4 filers at our main locations, using SonicWall site-to-site VPNs through all our locations, so everyone's connected. We have our main filer virtual in Azure, and that's where all our data is held. And then, of course, it's replicated to the 4 on-site filers. Our network is fairly simple. It's if we were to open up another office anywhere, it's I bring in a router, I bring in an AD server. I don't have to, but I will, and I don't even have to bring in a filer. And then we're up and ready to rock and roll.
Gotcha. Excellent. Josh, how are you guys doing it? Tin cans of string?
Well, similar to Clay, we're actually a Cisco Meraki shop. We've got a site-to-site mesh VPN at all of our locations. We've got 9 filers. Out of those 15 locations, we've got 9 in our bigger branch offices, as well as 1 in Azure cloud. Actually, our data is stored in Amazon S3, because that's just where we started, and Amazon does good with storing data, and it's not worth it for us to move it, so we decided to keep it there. So we're actually in both clouds, or in 2 of the clouds. So it works great. But same as what Clay said, our smaller project offices, we stand up internet, throw a Meraki firewall in there, connect it to site, and they work fine. and it does well. So the mesh VPN is fantastic, and those filers are fantastic. So, and as well as Clay said, with the virtualized environment, we order a beefy enough box, we throw a DC on it as well, just for redundancy and then peace of mind, and away we go.
That's excellent. So no special circuits linking the offices, nothing exotic in your setup, nothing.
Nope. The only thing we're looking at currently is SD-WAN, just for more improved services. But right now, it's just a plain Jane site-to-site VPN.
Awesome.
Yep.
Just a second. Let's talk about. Did you have to retrain folks? I mean, what did you have to do to get everybody used to the Panzura? Just curious.
Nothing.
Yep.
Right.
If anything, in my opinion, it's easier. You know, before Panzura, we had file servers in all of our branch locations. So your P drive for somebody in one office is a completely different P drive for someone else. Now we have the P drive is the P drive for absolutely everybody in the company. One big win that we're pushing out now is our scans. You know, same ideas. If you scanned in one office, it didn't show up in another. Now with Panzura, we scan to our filers, so no matter where you're at, you scan to your filer or your file, and you get it no matter where you're at. So it's great. It's fantastic.
It was surprising. I thought we were going to have a little bit more pushback from the users, and we really didn't. I mean, they all took to it like ducks to water. I have had really no questions. Everyone loves the feature that they can just restore files that they deleted on their own, which is especially nice for me because it always seemed like they only did that when I was on vacation. So,
you take vacations?
So, I get 3 days a year I'm allowed out of the cage. So.
All right, awesome.
You have to bring your laptop with you, I'm sure. So.
Of course. So no, there was no retraining. Everyone, you know, like Josh said, and that was. It's such a little thing, but it's huge to those of us in IT having uniform map drives that all the users know, no matter what location they're in, the P drive is the P drive, no matter what. Your projects are on there, and everyone knows that. There's no retraining. Everyone can see everything. So yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
And
I think we had a conversation not too long ago that you were kind of bragging about your file system and how you felt that was kind of a massive accomplishment. You would talk a little bit more about and just kind of spin a little bit further on that conversation.
Oh, in regards to the I was telling you I think we were uploading 9 terabytes worth of data, and with the dedupe, I think we're at 6. So I mean, that's a 30% give or take reduction in our data up in the cloud. And as you know, I mean, every bit and byte and bleep and bloop in the cloud you pay for. So it was pretty nice. We knew it was going to dedupe, and we knew it was going to be a lot smaller. We just didn't know we were going to get over 30% reduction. So pretty excited about that. That's just another item in the win column for Panzura with us.
Okay, so we'll pause for a second there. So we have backup and DR automatic built into the product, right? That's already there. Users, if you wish, you can allow them to self-restore files back from snapshotting, right? We've got that covered. So what kind of applications are you guys using currently? Josh, what are the applications in your guys' wheelhouse that your staff's using?
Pretty much all Bentley products, all Autodesk products, Civil 3D, Revit, Microstation, Inroads, pretty much the whole suite. And it works well, particularly if you're in the office. But we're actually looking at the WorkSpot VDI for our heavy hitters to work remotely, with Panzura being in Azure. So yeah, I think once we go WorkSpot, we'll actually allow all of our employees to be able to work from wherever they want to work, no matter what the workload.
Excellent. So I'll give a little bit of clarification for folks here. The WorkSpot is a cloud-based virtual desktop subscription you can purchase. It's another office of computers, and in this case, you will simply point them, since they're in Azure, they're hosted in Azure. You simply park Panzer in Azure, and it's just a Azure office then. I mean, it's literally that simple to do, and it's a great way of pointing your staff to that, as opposed to you spinning up your own. if you want to do your own, obviously, Panzer supports that, but they also support if you want to take advantage of other cloud services. And VDI is not the only service you can leverage in the cloud. A lot of the cloud providers provide lots of other services that you can then have act upon your data, which just happens to be, if it's in Azure, just happens to be right there without having to remap and relocate your data. So let's see, Josh, what apps are you, excuse me, Clay, I apologize, Clay, what apps are you guys running?
So pretty much the same as Josh, all the Bentley full suite, all the Autodesk products. Being more electrical, we also, a massive product we run is PLS CAD from Powerline Systems, which is basically a large transmission line engineering program. And it makes massive files, because we're talking about transmission lines over miles and miles with all the associated LiDAR data and terrain features. And, it's not uncommon to have a 2 to 5 gig file just at any given time, users are working on. And excuse me, Panzura really helped us with that one. We were having users in Houston, and then users in, closer to our Spring Branch, closer to our San Antonio office. They were having to upload the file to the local server from the separate site server, download it to their machine to work off of, and then work off of it, save it, copy it back to the local server, and then send it back over to the other offsite server so the other users could then collaborate on it. So it was just a mess of just data transferring back and forth. And you can imagine 2 to 5 gig files at any given time going back and forth across site-to-site VPNs, and it just kills your productivity.
Probably fills your pipes too.
Yeah. So with, obviously, with Panzura, we all know that just having all the data, replicated across both servers at the same time, and just updating metadata. I mean, the changes were instantaneous. Users in Office A were able to just make a change. They were done. File was locked. Office B would just open right up, ready to go. So yeah, I can't say enough good things about that. And that's what I talk about, getting deliverables to clients quicker. We're not uploading copies to, multiple copies with potential for corruption, then downloading them to working on them locally, and then back up. And, and we're not talking 1 or 2 times. I mean, we're talking every time a change is made to this massive file.
So I could imagine, you're moving a lot of data. You've got versioning issues. You've got a disjointed workflow, so to speak. You're not going to be able to overcome that with a traditional cloud type product because of the sheer volume of the files, right? The size, as you pointed out, the deduplication part of the way Panzura works, and the files being presented in each site. So, in this case, the secret sauce is, Spring Branch makes a change, only the changes are sent to the cloud, and only the changes come down then to their Houston site, and vice versa. So, if you change a text file of a couple of K, you're only moving a couple of K. You're not paying full freight to move. How big were those files?
2 to 5 gig. We actually tried it with
5 gig. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say we actually tried it with a 14 gig file, and it worked like a champ.
You imagine taking a 14 gig file, changing just a couple of pieces of text, saving it, and full freight. Well, I made my one change. Here you go. Panzura, it's just the deltas, right? That's all that really goes. And the neat thing about one of the technologies inside of Panzura is you don't have to wait for that stuff to automatically go to the cloud and come down your individual controller. They're so smart. We used to have those old jokes. So how smart are they, Doug? They're so smart. They will go out and grab the data if they know it's there, and the change that somebody in Houston made, and they brought it over to Spring Branch. They intelligently enough to go out and grab that cross-site and bring that over. That technology is just really super smart, and you don't get caught in a little traffic jam. If I need something now, guess what? You get it now, right? You don't have to wait for it. So that's one of the neat, really cool features about Panzer and how the technology works. All right, so we've talked about DR. We've talked about, it's built in, right? Snapshotting is built in. Your data's in the cloud, so you've got that air gap, right? So in case somebody comes into your system and does something, you've got your data up in the cloud there. But one of the things we've not talked about is kind of the security, about the filing system. And And let's talk about ransomware for a second, because that's out there. Anybody ever lose any sleep about somebody clicking on a PDF they shouldn't? A user in our organization, or how you doing that?
Yeah.
Josh doesn't
All the
lose any
time.
sleep. Josh is like, he's the man of steel. He's
lose sleep all the time. I apologize. I got a little bit of a internet connectivity issue, of course, at this particular point in time, so I've jumped over to my phone so I can continue the conversation. But in regards to losing sleep at night, that's one thing that that in talking with my guys, we were always worried, in particular, about ransomware type of events or losing data due to our data being spread across multiple locations and harder to back up. But with the Panzura appliances and the solution, we've got the centralized data stored up in the cloud and centralized file system, so it's all in one location. But also the snapshotting. That has been quite frankly a godsend in regards to ransomware in particular. With the write once, read many type of thing. So we've got the ability to recover a lot faster than what we did before. We've experienced a ransomware event in the past, and it's brought down the entire company for a matter of several weeks, where you're rebuilding the entire network and all the systems involved, as well as the file servers at all the locations. So this could potentially, turn that 3-week turnaround into several days or actually hours as far as our file server is concerned. So I sleep better at night, I can tell you that.
Excellent. So for those who are listening, Panzura's file system is an immutable file system. It's based on cloud object storage. So you write an object once, read it many times. And then if you want to change that file, as we're, changing those 15 gig files or 14 gig files that Clay's got, it's a delta. So as you look at your file, you're looking through the prism of time of your original file and your changes, and you actually get to see what the file looks like. Panzer does that for you automatically. So in case of a ransomware event, you just simply step back before the event, and that's how you're going to look at your files. We can restore the file system or files quickly and efficiently from that point on, and we can just ignore all the bad actor stuff. We can act like it didn't happen. One of the things that those bad actors, as you said, Josh, do, they look for backup copies, they look for snapshots, they look for any other backup utility you're running to try to prevent you from being able to restore your data yourself, right? Because they want you to pay. And the way Panzer presents itself to the end users and in the environment, those snapshots are not readily available to them. They are not something they can blow away. It's an immutable file system. They can encrypt your stuff the way it looks now, but let's go look at it before it happened, guys, and just, based on snapshots, let's take advantage of that and make that one less thing, that you have to worry about. Josh, you said you're along the Gulf Coast. I mean, I'm sure you've got weather issues and flooding and hurricanes at your offices a lot, so you have to worry about.
Yep. That in addition to the bad actors is, the bad weather, particularly this year, with the hurricanes and all of our lost power. We've actually have the ability with multiple filers to put multiple VPN connections at our other branch offices and just point our folks to their nearest geographic location as a failover to our primary data center. So if we do lose Mobile because of Hurricane Sally that comes through and takes our power out for 2 weeks, we just point them to our Atlanta office and we keep working like we normally would.
Excellent. Is the underlying technology I believe you're using is DFSN? Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean. We're still being technical here. So yeah, Panzer technology. One of the neat features is they leverage Microsoft's DFS file system, the N part, which stands for non-replicating, and allows you to access, as in Josh's case, if you're let you go to the nearest and greatest Panzer controller. It kind of automates that for you. It makes it kind of really easy.
I actually tested that the other night, Doug. I don't mean to jump in.
No, jump in.
Wait, I took down our Spring Branch office, just doing some rack moves, and pulled the wrong cable.
Oh, so it was accidental?
Yeah, it was accidental. I was looking at the wrong server. Pulled the wrong cable. No one even really noticed. DFS automatically repointed to another office, and no one said, "Hey, it's running a little bit slow." So I finally realized it about 10 minutes later. So, ooh, wrong server. Plugged it back
plug
in.
it back in. And all you gotta do is plug it back in, let the snapshots catch up, and you're good to go.
Yep, that was it. Everyone's going.
We don't recommend them, but yeah, it can't. What is it, like a belt and suspenders type situation? Kind of protects you from yourself in this case.
Yep.
That is awesome. So let's, as I said earlier, we're going to circle back the cloud, right? So let's circle back the cloud for a second, and let's talk about let's talk about Clay, what you're doing, and Josh, what you guys are doing. What you're doing in the cloud now, and what does the cloud hold for you in the future? If you don't mind sharing that with the audience. So Clay.
Certainly, yeah. So right now we have a virtual sonic wall appliance, just like it's a virtual office up there. We have our main master Panzura filer, our Azure blob storage. We have an Azure AD controller. Our next step is going to be WorkSpot VDI. I mean, Josh hit it on the head. It also circles back to us talking about what it's going to take to be competitive. It's also going to be getting the upper management to realize that we don't need brick and mortar anymore, that we need to be working everywhere, that there's talent all across the country, across the world that we could utilize. We don't have to have somebody within the office all the time. We can work from home, we can work from a Starbucks and still have the same processing power that we would have working on a massive desktop here in the office. Not to mention, having all our data up there in the cloud is just makes me sleep better at night, and having all our processing power and being able to scale it as we need, and scale our storage as we need. So that's where we're at with the cloud. And I think the work, obviously we're going to stay with Panzura, and WorkSpot is the future for us.
That's excellent. That's interesting. You made that comment about hiring for anywhere. Traditionally, and you've heard me go on about this before, traditionally, you can usually, if you have an office in a certain location, you can hire, your talent pool is limited with about 30 miles, right? Yep. That's your talent pool, 30 miles of the office. And if you think about it, what you've done is you're taking down those barriers. The way you're planning for the future, leveraging the cloud in a very smart way with Panzura. Your talent pool now is the planet, or the United States, or wherever. You've taken down those regions, and now that talent pool is massive compared to what was before. I mean, that right there, that's kind of cool. I'm gonna be honest. It's just really neat in that regard that you can hire anybody, and I think from an employee retention and making your company attractive to potential hires, how cool is that, right? I'm sorry, geeking out a little bit on that one. It's really neat technology where now you're no longer limited, right? That digital transformation, that journey that all companies are on, it's been really accelerated by 2020. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
We pushed everything. We've pushed the company's infrastructure. We've pushed, we've all heard the Zoom horror stories about somebody leaving a camera on when they all these things, we've all become better, smarter consumers of technology, and we've all leveraged it across on all the different platforms, and it's really just been a great, interesting journey in 2020. And the way you guys have set your company up there it's really cool and impressive. So
thank you.
It's really impressive. So Josh, you were telling me, okay, you tell your cloud story there. I'm sorry.
No problem. Similar to Clay, we actually started in Amazon, so we have our data stored S3, but we've migrated our appliance to Azure. So we've got a DC running in Azure. We've got a filer there. We're all running behind a virtual Meraki VMX 100 that's connected to our site VPN through, we're all mesh VPN. So it's basically just a cloud office. That allows us to eventually take advantage of the WorkSpot VDI type solution to allow those workers to work from wherever they're at. A lot of the younger generation, they want to be able to work from Yellowstone if they got internet service from there, and they want to go on vacation for 2 weeks and do a little bit of work from their camper if the internet permits. So be it. Now we have the ability to allow that. And it's right. To me, it's a benefit that the company can provide. So it's, you know, it goes right up there with PTO. You know, it's just a flexible office hours, flexible schedule. And while allows us to reduce our footprint, you know, on our office locations. Instead of the 5,000 square foot office, we can have the 3,000 square foot office. So we end up saving money in the long run, but providing better services to our clients, which are our users, while making them more productive to our clients. So.
Wow, you got to be on your CFO's Christmas card list. Everything you just named off.
Working on it.
You're on the good list, right? You know, there's a difference, right? There's the family card, you get the pictures, and then you get the stock card. You've made the picture card. You've made the family picture card.
Well, with Panzer, I better be there. So.
Absolutely. I mean, you guys, if I were your CFO just listening, not you know, I'm in your corner. It's a heck of a story. I mean, you're right, you know, giving that flexibility to the employees. Have you guys, you know, one of the things we've noticed when we talk with different companies, because people are working remotely and they're working successfully, right? We've actually seen a lot of folks say, you know, people are more productive, right? I mean, I don't spend, you know, 2 to 3 hours commuting anymore in Atlanta traffic. I feel I'm personally more productive. Hopefully my peers and everybody agree, but what's your guys' experience?
Yeah, I've heard it both sides. I've heard some folks that are like, man, I'm way more productive. And then I've heard some that say, I come to the office to get away from my kids.
Or the barking dog, right? Yeah.
No, the ones that are productive, I mean, that, you know, they were obviously just rock stars in the office, and, you know, they're at their house, and I think VPN just is kind of, I think it's more limiting to them the way we currently have it. So currently the way we have it is we still have to VPN, you know, using a VPN client into our office to hit the local filer. And then, you know, future looking, which is coming up very soon, if they were on WorkSpot VDI, obviously there's no VPN. You're just boom in the cloud. You're working no matter what you're doing. No matter where you are, and those rock stars can stay rock stars. But the caveat with WorkSpot is it's not that WorkSpot is so great. It's that WorkSpot on top of Panzura is what is great. I mean, you have to have all your data in the cloud.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I really do. That's a very great point. You know, it's the chocolate and peanut butter, right? Two great ingredients together, the heck of a snack, right? All right, that's awesome. You know, and I liked how Josh pointed out earlier. You know, he's mixing technologies, right? He's got his Panzura, he runs it in Azure. His storage is over on Amazon S3 bucket. He's leveraging, you know, his existing bucket there. He's working, you know, Panzer gives you that freedom to use, you know, multi-cloud. You can use different clouds. It's technically not the way they use it, but the fact that you have the freedom to choose the technologies that work for you. I mean, there are folks that I know specifically that are using a Panzer and a colo, and in that colo, you know, they're renting, you know, VDIs from a provider. In your case, you know, Clay and Josh, you're talking about renting it from a cloud provider. You know, what's the common glue that brings it all together? Panzer file storage, right? You know, the fastest global file system on the planet. And when we say that, we mean that. You know, it brings you DR, it brings you instant data consistency, right? So if we're looking at a file, you know, in the United States, and I save it, it's instantly available in Australia, and it's the right file. It's not, there's no data corruptions, no, somebody didn't open it and whatever, didn't get lost in transit by shipping or whatever. It's instant data consistency. It's that speed to the end user, and it's that confidence from that, you know, you IT people, you know, can rest easy at night, because I know Clay and Josh, you have things that keep you up at night, you know, that you'd rather not have happen. But, you know, hey, let's just be honest. This is one less thing to worry about, and you know, and not have to babysit. So, hey, before we start taking questions here in a little bit, I want to just kind of ask kind of a question here. Josh, you've been on the product for a very long time, and one of the things that was not available to you when you first purchased, but was available to Clay when he purchased, was training. So I know it's, Panzer believes an educated client is a happy client, right? So Clay, tell us a little bit about that training course you did, and maybe we can get Josh interested in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, working with Jason Schmidt through ASTI for, over a year on getting Panzura, and he highly recommended the training from day one before I
I
even knew
highly
what
recommend
Panzura
Jason
was.
Schmidt too, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. He told me you need to take this training and you should probably do it pre-implementation. And I did, and I did the training with Nick Lotz from Panzura, who just did an excellent job. It was a 3-day online course. Because we did it pre-implementation when Pia through Panzura was actually setting up my filers, who, by the way, I think we can all agree Pia is just amazing, right? Like Panzura
Rockstar.
support is the greatest. Um, when I was going through that with Pia, I was able to ask him more intelligent questions instead of, what are you doing now? I knew how to do the implementation. I knew what was going to happen next. And so I was able to not just follow along, but he would say, hey, are you comfortable doing this? I said, yeah, I am comfortable doing this. And Nick really he did a great job. He dove pretty deep on the global file locking and the intelligent caching that's in Panzura. That really just explain the whole thing, then at the end, how to monitor it, how to maintain it, how to troubleshoot it, when to call support if you need to. I have nothing but great things to say about the training. Like I would highly recommend it. I was in a class with 2 other gentlemen who had already had Panzura for years, who were learning things that they didn't know. So there's me who, just green, had no clue how to do any of this. Learning more about the implementation and some of the maintenance, and they're going through saying, oh, I can do that. And then they covered Vision AI, which one of the gentlemen had, and which is another fantastic product that we want to get our hands on in the future. But yeah, Nick did a fantastic job with the training. So Josh, I highly recommend it, man.
It's in my budget for next year. I'll tell you that
Nice.
Already. I worked on that, added it to my spreadsheet after our last conversation.
That's excellent.
And just to further on that, Clay mentioned Pia support. Panzura support is spot on, fantastic. I have had 0 training in Panzura, and I still felt comfortable with our deployment and our migration from our hardware appliances to the virtual platform. Pia set up every filer we have in each of our offices, as well as the Azure cloud. And if there was ever an issue, it was escalated quickly and resolved quickly, no problems. And he never once were we left hanging or felt like we were being neglected. So the system itself is great. Support, I would dare to say it's even better. It's fantastic. It's a great product, well supported.
Wow.
100%.
Wow.
Yep.
Make sure that everybody gets a copy of this. And Pia, I know he's a great guy, and yeah, you're right. The ones over that support, they're world class. They do a really great job.
Yep.
Okay, so before we get into the questions, which kind of go over kind of some of the stuff. So as far as technical stuff, Panzer, it runs on VMware, right? What are the things you're going to need to run it, right? You need VMware. You're going to need SSD for the metadata portion of it. So as we make that virtual machine, it's got 2 sections, caching and metadata. Metadata has to be on SSD. It's recommended for the caching. You can do less, but honestly, I think both you gentlemen just did SSD across the board. I know from an IT side, if you keep it simple, instead of having to mix and match, there's less chance for error. So, and to be quite honest, the difference between SATA SSD drives and SAS, spinning disk is nominal, right? You're really not going to. It's like we priced it out. It's usually like $150 $150 difference on like a 960 gig drive. I think that's the increment between SATA SSD and SAS spinning disk. So definitely recommend as much SSD as you can put in there. So as far as the sites, all your sites have to be connected with a VPN, right? You got to have a full mesh network. Everybody has to talk to everybody. So all Panzuras can all get along in a very happy kind of way. And as far as circuits, you're not doing anything special. You do have certain minimum speeds you have to maintain for upload so that you all can push files back and forth. And there's some latency minimums. which are all on Panzura website if you want exact details, or we can provide them at the end of this session here if you want some further information. But as far as the setup, professional services took care of it. I mean, it was really pretty easy to do cross-site collaboration with Panzura. Just, you get Panzura and get some hardware, and it's pretty easy to do, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I agree.
Good. Go ahead, Clay.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I was completely surprised. I had in my mind that it was going to be this massive undertaking because we're tearing our entire file structure out, taking off all the servers on site and replacing them with this local filer, and redoing the way we point all our data, adding the cloud in, and it was ridiculous how easy it has been working with Arvin and Pia from Panzura, Doug, you and Jason. You and Jason with ASTI have just been incredible.
Thank you.
It really made what I think is just a very scary task seem pretty trivial.
Well, from Panzer and Applied Software, we say thank you for trusting us with your data.
Thank you.
And same thing, as much as I praise Panzer support, ASTI has been there for us as well. It's definitely been good support from Doug and Jason. Been fantastic, so you can't say enough good things about it.
Go on. No, it's not serious. Sorry. All right. So, if there's any questions, we'll go ahead and pause right now, and we'll wait for any questions to come in from the audience. We'll let our backstage crew take care of that. But we'll just continue to chat here for a few more minutes as those questions come in. Try to, we can get as technical. Feel free to ask us any questions about the. Okay, great. So we do have one question. What is the optimal configuration for Panzer working in the cloud? Great question. So Clay and Josh, I think you both have similar setups. So in Azure, do you remember the particulars about what you've got set up?
Off the top of my head. Oh, go ahead, Josh. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say, I think, like off the top of my head, I'm not sure exactly what size VM we put in place for the filer, but Panzer support and ASTI can definitely provide that.
Sure.
And the nice thing, you can always scale up should you need more resources. But that's basically what we have there is just a VM for the filer and a very small VM for the DC and the virtual appliance that connected to our site-to-site VPN. So it's pretty minimal.
Yep. So your minimal, just because I just happen to know this, is a D8S V3. It's in Azure, so that's the size of the VM. D8S V3. And I believe we use the SSD drives, which they're the standard or the premium, whatever. It's a P15 or 20. So they'll do 6 drives, depending upon what the size of your metadata and cache is per sizing. But generally, they find that D8S V3 machine will handle several, I believe, if I get this right, Arvin will slap me on the wrist later, like 150 VDI users, generally pretty well. But the size of the hard drives on there will be either the 256 or the 512s. It's usually about 3 terabytes of space they'll put up there for a cloud. But it really depends upon how much work you're doing, as in how many people, what types of files. Is it Revit, or is it AutoCAD Civil 3D, or is it PLS CAD like Clay is running? Depends on the application, and it also depends on the number of users. And Panzer engineers are experts at sizing that, but that's kind of your entry level really. And that scales, like I said, from just a couple to 150 very easily. So
I think when I was first doing Panzura, the before we had even gotten started, Arvin was already doing a Panzura sizing guide for all of my stuff. Just what do we have? What do we need? I mean, he already knew before I did. He was like, yeah, this is what you're going to do in your configuration. So I mean, it's a tough question because everyone's environments are different. If you have 30 users versus 1,000 users, I mean, it's going to be different. But I think we have the same configuration as Josh with that VM, the sizing.
Actually, you did.
And ASTI and Panzer support are very good with calculating that and telling you what you need, like you said, Clay, that to give you that optimum performance in the cloud.
Yep.
You know, Arvin and Tia, they will certainly put you in what you need to be to meet your needs.
Yes, I totally agree. They actually have it down to a science based on the number of people, locations, and type of work you're doing. So absolutely agree there.
Yeah.
Do you have anyone that's had experience with ransomware with Panzer recently? All right, so the question is regarding VSS deletion, admin credentials harvested. So actually, yes, we've had experience with ransomware, a couple of them. So we actually, the VSS snapshots are not actually presented because they're not there. So that's not actually, even if you had domain admin, Windows domain, let's be very specific here, Windows domain admin credentials, the Panzer is actually a specifically hardened FreeBSD based machine. It actually presents itself as a Windows file server, but it's not Windows. It does join your domain, but the underlying operating system and file system that's presented to the end user, such as a domain user or domain admin, it resembles Windows, but on the backside it's not. So the VSS snapshotting is a Windows-based technology that's not actually there for them to look at. You can go back in time and right-click and say previous versions, but there's not that underlying snapshot that's available for them to delete. Now, that's different as if they were to get into the Panzura console. That's a different situation. And under any situation where you've contacted or been hit by ransomware, the first thing is contact Panzura support. They have you covered. They'll help you recover as quickly as possible. They'll walk you through it. But if they were to get into their console, that's a different situation, and we could talk offline about that. But to our knowledge, folks so far that we know of, nobody's paid to get any data back from a ransomware who's been a Panzer consumer, because we can simply step back before that happens. Hope that answers your question. If you need further, details, please contact us afterwards. Josh, I said you had a ransomware, but it was pre-Panzura. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, it was pre-Panzura, so it's we had the standard Windows file servers throughout all of our branch offices, and it pretty well took everything down, save a couple of VMs that we had. So it's definitely peace of mind now that we're on Panzura with the immutable file system and some protection there from future potential ransomware events if they do occur. So.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. It's as IT professionals, we don't like sharing when somebody did that in our environment. We all take that personal. So I appreciate you sharing and being open about that. And I'm going to be honest, and in light of your openness, we also had experienced a ransomware event about 5 years ago, and actually came in traditional. Somebody opened up a PDF and had launched it in the accounting department. And honestly, they didn't notice what had happened, and it encrypted their machine. Put everything on their machine and put everything up there and said, "Hey, you've got a ransom contact, yada yada." And then it, of course, it encrypted every file that user had access to. Now that user just happened to only have access to one directory, but it was really short and easy to undo what had been done. And we simply just, formatted that machine, and the person's end user's computer, we just totally toasted it, right? Just scorched earth, redid it all over from scratch. So the ransomware event happened at 6:11. I roll back to the 6 o'clock snapshot, 11 minutes. That was the only difference. And that was very easily done. So it was 11 minutes of lost production, which was nothing, because at that point in the evening, nothing really happened to our environment in that particular directory. So we're good to go there.
I think I asked Jason Schmidt 6,000 times before I finally pulled the trigger about ransomware. The board was asking me about ransomware. I kept asking Jason. I think I was bugging you for a while about it. I would think poor Seth had to put up with it for a while over at Panzura. Yeah, I mean, I feel confident, extremely confident in the fact that our data is safe. I mean, I would almost have to just leave the front door wide open and then just leave for just gross negligence for something to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knock on wood. Yeah. Now that I say that, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. I share. You don't want to be in my chair next time, right? All right. So we had another question came in. Great one. I like these because it's the poking, chinks in the armor. Have you found any applications or use cases that are not a good fit for Panzura? So the first thing I'm going to say is we do acknowledge that there is a Esri Data, right? That data works great in a single office environment, just like it does on a Windows server. Works fantastic. But because of the way Esri Data is used by the application, using Esri, you can't use it across sites. You cannot collaboratively share a file and have people making changes in multiple locations. That's because Esri has already addressed that with their Esri server. So that's one product that we know that's not a good fit, right? You can use it in a single site, and that's the limitation. Don't try to collaborate amongst different sites because you're going to have file corruption. There are a few Adobe-based applications that are like Illustrator that are not network aware. So it's not that it's a Panzer issue per se. It's because they want you to use their cloud platform, and they literally don't do any locking of any sort. So there are a few applications out there that are not network aware, and you kind of find that as this is 2020. Every application should be network aware, right? Because that's what we're replicating. We're going to take that network environment that's on a traditional Windows CIF SMB type share, and Panzer simply replicates that, just does it really quick, fast, and secure. But there are some applications like Adobe Illustrator that they prefer, like Esri, to use their cloud platform as opposed to doing it in a network environment. So I hope that answers your question.
With Esri, we have multiple users in different offices, and it just takes a little bit of collaboration between the two, a phone call, a Teams, a text, or something just says, hey, you're good to go now. I mean, we don't have, power users in every office, but it just takes a little bit of collaboration. And like you said, Doug, Esri has already addressed this. And the Panzura team was very forthright with this right on the bat. And Jason Schmidt was explaining to me, hey, these are the ways around it. It's not a deal breaker. It's not that you can't use it. It's just a little kind of a hiccup, if you will. One of the things that I noticed, and this is just kind of a product of my environment, is local license servers. So it's no fault of Panzura. It's just what I'm trying to do in my environment. I want to go 100% cloud first, kind of following the Andy Knopf example, right? I want everything in the cloud. The problem is some of these legacy software packages that use a local on-site server. Bentley does great. Theirs is in the cloud. Autodesk is now their single sign-on, but some of the older version, Esri is a pretty good example. You still have to have a local on-site Esri server. So as much as I want to get rid of hardware, I still have to have a local on-site Esri server or a local on-site, server for some random structural hard software that we may use.
Right.
So that's no fault of Panzura. That's just where I'm trying to go in my environment. Is I can't make everything 100% cloud-based until the other companies and the other software decide, hey, we're going to get on the cloud ball and we're going to start putting our licensing in the cloud.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's it's a glue that helps you get there, right? It's not the end all be all, and it doesn't try to be that, right? It knows what it does, and it does a very good job at what it does, and they know what when you use the right tool in the right application in the right framework, right? You're successful. And that's what we really work on, is making sure that people like yourself know, hey, works great for this, this, and this. Yeah, you're gonna have to change your workflow a little bit around here, right? That's really it. So we're gonna wrap up here, guys. I apologize for not getting to all the questions. We still have some out there that are unanswered, but you can contact us directly after this, and we can answer those and provide additional information to any and all the folks here. That's really it. I think we're gonna do a wrap. I just want to say, Josh, Clay, hey, thank you for your time today, guys. I really appreciate it. I know you guys are busy professionals, and we just appreciate your time.
Glad to be here.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. And with that, we'll call it a day. And I'll say thank you to all our viewers. We appreciate the great questions. And if we can be of further service, just let us know.